Hi, it's Sandy Parker, and welcome to Crafting for Almost Everyone. Today we're going to make Christmas cards and Thanksgiving cards super fast, super easy. You won't believe it. I hope you'll stay tuned. Well, I've done this before when I was in college. I made three-dimensional images out of the same background. What I mean by that is, see, the M and the C are raised. It makes it so that you have a more interesting look from something very simple. And for these, what I decided to do is I went on the internet and I just typed in free printable vintage postcards. And this is the one that the first one I played with. And I just thought I would show you one so you saw the idea. And then we would make a couple together. The first one we're going to make together is the Thanksgiving card. And I'm going to use 5x7. Oh, the other thing I want to tell you is when you go to print this on your computer, you're going to want to put cardstock in your printer tray. And you're going to want to change the dimensions of the printed image to 4 inches by 6 inches. And that will give you a really nice size to go on a 5x7 card. Looks like this on plain white paper that's just photocopier paper. And then I printed it out on 3 different sheets of cardstock. And the reason for that is I needed 3 different layers to make this really pop. So I cut out, I'm going to layer these on here so you can see them. I cut out one of the Thanksgiving happiness. It'll start with this piece. Then I'll layer this on top raised, and then I'm going to layer this on top raised, and then I'm going to layer these individual little pieces. This is some rocks. I'm going to layer all of these on the background raised. And to do that, it's just the type of glue you use. Now, you could use hot glue for this, and many people do use hot glue for it because it does give you some dimension. But I'm going to use some Collal glue that I got from hsn.com. And this is what it's called, 3D Decoupage Glue. Now, if you don't want to buy glue, and I don't recommend you buying glue for something like this, what I recommend you doing is go to your hardware store and find silicone caulking for your tub. And it's a clear. You want the clear, not the white. And what that does is the exact same stuff. That's what I used when I was in college. And I made all kinds of 3D images for my family for Christmas and their birthdays, and they got sick of getting it from me. But hey, I didn't have any money, and all I did back then was buy gift wrap, and then I just cut out the designs out of gift wrap. I thought that was kind of smart. Anyway, I'm starting again, as I said, with 5x7 card bases. These were pre-made card bases that I bought from Joann's a really long time ago in craft color. Before I glue anything down, though, I'm going to play with this a little bit. What I wanted to do first is, I don't know if you can see really well, but you see there's like a gold line across the bottom of this. When I cut it out, I couldn't get that image, that line, all the way around. So I just thought, why not take a Sharpie in a similar color? And I thought I would practice first on just on the edge of this, so you can see the difference on that. See it right there? That's on that's plain photocopy paper. That's not what we're using for this. So then I'm going to just take my T-ruler, and I'm going to go a little bit from the edge. Then I'm going to do the bottom. The bottom edge already has that coppery color. This going around the edge like I am is going to make it stand out a little bit more. Last side. Okay. It's kind of a coppery look to it. I think it looks nice. Then I want to pick a background color because I need to layer this up on a color. I'm looking at this green. I think maybe this darker green might look nice. maybe a brown. Well, we're going to grab a couple colors and see what we think of those. I picked a bunch of greens to see which one I like the best. And I thought I would really like this color. But now that I'm playing with it, I'm not sure about this color, although it's textured. I really don't like textured cardstock. And enough of this is going to stick out from behind that you'll definitely know that it's textured. Oh, I can't force myself to do that. I'm going to go with, let me check one more green. That one's not bad. All right, let's go with this one. We're going to cut this to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And that'll make a really nice border. 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. So the first thing we're going to do, I think, to make this simple, I'm going to get my bone folder, or something that reminds me of a bone folder, and make sure that this is flattened out. This bone folder was made by Fiskars. They don't make it anymore, but I find you can still find them on eBay in case you are looking for a bone folder that makes you happy, and that one does make me happy. The shape of it is easy for me to hold, so if you have any issues with being able to hold on to things, I recommend that one. And we're going to get our Barely Art glue. I just refilled this, and it seemed like the glue I refilled it with is a little bit more runny than the glue that was that I remember when I first got it. I don't know. I don't know if it's runnier or not. It just seemed like it might be. First things first, we're going to lay this on here and get our base going so we know what we want this to end up looking like. Then we're going to take this and put it up on foam tape because I want some dimension on everything in this card, not just the part that we're making 3D. I'm using my foam tape that I absolutely hate. Someday I'm going to be free of this. I don't know if you guys remember the old days when I had some foam tape I absolutely hated. How'd I end up with another roll of almost the exact same stuff? I don't know. All I can say is, ugh, it's gross. It just doesn't make me happy. It's way too sticky, and it's almost impossible to take back off once you lay it even in the vicinity of what you're putting it on, and it sticks to your hands, and it's just nasty. I wish I could tell you where I bought it so you could avoid it like the plague, but I don't remember where I got it. I seem to buy things too far in advance of when I need it, and then, then it's too late. Then you're stuck with it. That's about. So that's our first layer. Then, I'm not sure if I told you how this glue came that I bought, but it has a syringe. There it is. It comes with a syringe that you can fill with it so that you can get into these little places, and I thought that was really handy. But some of these things I'm just going to put up with foam tape. As much as I don't want to, I'm still doing it. I want a couple of different heights, I think, for some of these things so that we can, so that it looks a little bit more dimensional. This you can't put through the mail unless you pay extra postage because it's going to really have a lot of dimension, as I said. Okay, and then you're just going to, when you do this, your goal is to make sure that you lay it exactly where it was. Like that piece was right there. Then I have this piece, and I wonder if I have any higher, thicker foam. I do have foam circles that are really thick. My foam squares, circles that I'm going to use are really, really, really thick. I'm going to show you how thick they are. See that? That's pretty thick. Thick. Oh, golly. These are the things I just don't know. So I'm going to put this section on these really thick foam dots. You know, I think I'm just going to cut a section of this off and use the whole section. Why not, right? Use the debris part of it. Since I'm doing such a big section, I might as well, right? One more, and we've got this bad boy going. So then what you're going to do, because again, we're going to put it exactly where it was before. Then I'm going to use my little dollops of glue to glue on these trees and a couple rabbits. Let me do my rabbits first. Okay, so this is how this glue comes out of the syringe. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. It's not the easiest thing to squeeze this out. I'm just telling you. Hold on. I'll have to do it overhead. I apologize. You won't be able to see anything. I'm going to turn it sideways so you can see this once I... Can you see? It's just a clear gel. And I'm going to lay this rabbit right where he sits on the card. And I like, when I do this, I like to push, I like to put it in place, and then I like to push down a little bit on the bottom so that it looks like the bottom of the rabbit. Can you see that, how high it is? But I like to do that because then it makes it look like the rabbit, his feet are on the ground. You know what I mean? Follow that? Hope so. This glue will dry hard. So it will, you know, it'll hold on your card once it sets up. Right now, if you push it down, it will flatten. So you don't want to push it down unless that's your goal. Like when I'm pushing down the bottom, as I said before, to get my rabbits the dimension I want. I like the idea of making those trees three-dimensional. I don't know how easy it's going to be. I didn't cut the branches out, just the tree bark, the trunk bark. I made that up, didn't I? I'm not going to make this tree super dimensional. Or maybe I will, because right now I've got glue coming out of everywhere on this thing. The syringe does make it a lot easier to maneuver this glue. You want to, if you have any of it that's kind of oozing out over the edges, you just want to wipe it off with your fingers and then clean your fingers off. They're not as dimensional as I want them to be, so I'm going to pick up tops of my tree and put a little bit of glue underneath, hopefully, if I can. It's easy to wipe that off, you know, if you do have it oozing out like I just did. Laying this right over. Again, I want my bottom to be more attached than the upper section. You can do as many things or as few things as you want. You don't have to, you know, you may think you only want to do a couple things. And on the next card, the Christmas card I'm going to do, I did a lot fewer, but the ones I did do had, I think, will really make an impact. So here is my pumpkin. I'm going to put a big gob of this stuff on the back of this one. There's where the stem goes, right there. So that is what it looks like. Hopefully, let me turn it a different way so maybe you can see the dimension on that. I just think it's so cool when you've got all that dimension and all those things raised. It's just really fun to look at. I think it's really interesting. Anyway, that is our first one, and then we're going to make a Christmas card. And our Christmas card, aren't you glad I cut everything out in advance? Our Christmas card is going to look like this. And we are going to do the same card base. I'm going to use the craft cardstock. Try and figure out what I do with my bone folder in that amount of time. There it is. Okay. Rolling right along. Got my bone folder. Everything's cut out. And in this card, what I really thought would be interesting is if Santa's arm, his wait, I'll show them as I go. I cut his bag. I wasn't sure if I was going to leave his bag on or not, but I also did this. I made it almost detached because what I thought, by leaving it almost detached, then I would be able to make it at a different dimension than Santa. Then I decided this arm of Santa's needed to be raised, so it's coming out at you. And then this hand of Santa's is going to be raised so that it's like the foremost thing you see. Then the little boy, or girl, I think it's a boy though, he's raised. Then his hand and his arm holding the card is raised. And then I kind of like the idea, and I might change my mind about this, but I like the idea that maybe the trumpet or whatever this little toy is in the bag is raised. So that's my thinking on him. I also want to put him up on a background, and this time I think I'm going to go for like glittery red cardstock, just because he's so, it is such a Christmassy theme. I got this on HSN a long time ago. It's from Crafter's Companion. I think I want that color red. And I think they call it their luxury cardstock. They have like a Christmas pack that's got red and green and I think maybe silver or gold, but I really liked it. 4 3/4 by, what do I have? Fingerprints I just got all over this. How pretty. By 6 3/4. So first things first, let's put some glue on the back of our paper here, and then we'll be able to get this stuck down. I'll tell you why it doesn't want to come out of there, because I forgot to put the pin in it, and I haven't crafted for several days, and then when I got back to my craft room I realized it hadn't been closed in all that time, so it's got something to make it stick in there. Alright, so we've got our background red. I think I want to outline the edges of this one with black. So I'm just going to make a very thin border on this piece. Let's see where Santa needs to go. How about next thing we're going to do is we're going to glue down the additional Santa. And I think I'm going to do that with these foam squares on part of them, because I think I have a section of these that is used up that also would fit in it like a triangle shape, like Santa's body is. I want him to be really raised because when I do his bag, I want his bag to not be as raised as Santa is. Hopefully I have it laying in the right spot. See how the bottom of this is already kind of laying down? That's good. Ooh, I want that to go there. We really want the top to be really raised, so I'm going to put a big gob in this section. And I want the bottom to be pretty flat, like that. And this glue really does give you a lot of ability to move things around, which I like. Let's put his other arm on. One of his arms, not other. Let's put his first arm on. And we want the upper part of his arm to be on an angle. You'll see this when I, hopefully. See, when I lay it like this, you can kind of see that the bottom of his arm and the right side of his arm are flatter, and this part is more raised. See that? I just think it really adds a lot to Santa. And then we're going to do his cuff of his other arm. you really need to line up his hands because you don't want him to look like he's got a bunch of hands. You know what I mean? Then we have the little fella. And I want him to be really raised at the top by his head. Put a lot here. And I want the arm, woo, at the bottom. I just want this to be flat or flatter, but I'm hoping I can get the little card to stick up more. As I said, make sure they're lined up because otherwise it doesn't look right. There. Looking pretty cute. Then I have some Shimmer Spray. I'm not going to use it as a spray. I dumped some onto this little tray, and I decided what I would do with it is I would just kind of go over things that I think in life might be sparkly. This is like Wink of Stella. If you have Wink of Stella, you could do that. I just thought I would put a little bit of glitter just to highlight certain things on this. I think I'll make his belt shimmery. So that is how you make almost free cards for Christmas. I think they're so much fun to do, and they, like I said, they'd be great to do with a kid. And again, I use this silicone 3D decoupage glue from Collal, but if you go to your hardware store and in the bathroom section, if you get clear, it's like a silicone caulk for your tub, like the tiles around your tub, that's what you want to find. And it works exactly the same way. Or if you don't want to spend any money, and I don't recommend you do this with kids, but if you want to do it, if you want to use hot glue also will do a nice job of giving you the dimension that you need. But it's a little bit tough when you're using it on these tiny areas, because if you do and it seeps out and you get burned with it, I'd feel bad. So let's go over all three cards. I thought it would be easiest if I kind of turned them all straight up and down so you can see, hopefully, can you see the dimension here? And then I'll turn it from this way. Can you see the dimension from that angle? Hopefully. You can see how high the pumpkin is and the wheat. That's not wheat. The corn and the rabbits. Can you see the rabbits sticking out? It's hard to see in a video just how dimensional these cards are, but I'm hoping that you can see it, I don't know, in that one. Then the Merry Christmas, I didn't go into any detail about this, but all I did with this one, the Merry Christmas was in, it wasn't filled in with any color. So I took one of my alcohol markers, I filled it in with a color that would match the plants in the background. And then I put a little bit of that sparkle, and I don't know if it catches it in the light, but I painted over it with that sparkle pen. And then I drew dashes and dots around this and on the letters with a white gel pen. I thought that kind of added to it. And the black was too stark, I thought. So hopefully that looked better. And this one, I'm sure in the one photo you saw his arm laying there to the side when I was like, I thought I had another arm there, but I didn't, but I found it and I glued it on. So I'm going to show you this up and down. Hopefully you can see, I don't know, maybe from that direction, I don't know which way to make it so you can see just how dimensional his arm is, and his hat, and the instrument in the bag, and the bag, his arms. I really, I love this technique, and it's so inexpensive to do because all you're going to be doing is finding a free printable, printing it on your regular jet printer, and then just cutting it out. It's more time than anything else in hand cutting out these images. I also I found this smooch stuff, and I painted, it's supposed to be like glittery green, so I painted over some of the green on this, and I don't think it's very glittery, honestly. And then I used this on these little green things that were in the bag. Again, it doesn't look too glittery. It looks real fun and glittery in the bottle. It's just called Smooch. I've had it a long time. It was fun to play with, but, well, I'll just show you. I'll open it up and play with it a little bit so you can see just what it does. It's very, on the brush, it looks like it's really dark, but when you put it on your background, it doesn't add much in the way. It adds a little bit of color, but as far as sparkle, I thought it would add a little more sparkle than it added, and I painted my trees with it, and I played with it all over in this background, but the sparkles that I got out of it were very minimal. When it's wet, it's kind of pretty and sparkly, but when it dried, it didn't add much of anything to it, but it was fun to play with. I was glad I bought it when I did buy it, because at the time I was at a craft show and I saw somebody using it at a craft show and thought, wow, that's the coolest stuff. I'm going to have to get me some of that. And you know how that works for me. In the end, I've got a bottle of stuff that I don't use, and then when I do use it, it's a disappointment because clearly I'm not skilled at figured out how to make it do anything. But that's what I did with it. I used it on everything that was green in this image, and I added green to the things in Santa's box, and I even added it to the pumpkin, to the stem, and to that leaf that's on the top of that big pumpkin that I added. I'll add it a little bit more so you can see it. And right now, it's looking a lot greener than it did yesterday when I played with it. So maybe it's just a matter of shaking it or playing with a little bit. I don't know. All I'm saying is it was fun to play with. I like the brush. It's cool. So there are our cards. I hope you enjoyed this technique. I have to say, I love this. I think it's so much fun to do, and I believe that whoever would get these cards would think you spent a lot more time on them than you did, because, like I said, the most effort you put into it is cutting out the images. So I hope you enjoyed this, that you give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and please tell your friends about me on social media, because you know I love that. And thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.